Hello folks, we're live imaging the sun now, and I will be doing that this morning until the clouds get in our way. And let me change cameras. This one's awful fuzzy. That's better. But none of them make me look good. That's the bad thing about live photography. You don't have a chance to Photoshop this stuff. Although I think they do have Photoshop maneuvers on live video. Too many old people look good on television. But anyway, so let's go on over and look at the sun. Do a screen share and bring up the sun. And here we go. Also, let me bring up comments in case there are any. And let's see if we can. 1 second. I'd like to go back here and try. Okay. I think we can head back now and start imaging. I've got stuff working. Okie dokie. I've been imaging this sunspot right here, and I'm going to move the mount over, and I'm going to use this little hand controller here to move over, and we're going to need to move down and kind of center it in the crosshairs. That's kind of where I want to do it right now. A little bit too far, and come back the other way. Anyway, that's good enough. And then it's these two sunspots right here that I'm interested in getting some data on. So I'm going to take a quick capture of just say 500 frames. I'm imaging at 120 frames per second. As you blinked your eyes, I already had the 500 frames. And as you can see, it's already moved out of, it's drifted out of the sweet spot. I don't know what's happened to this hand controller. It's not working. So we want to move the sun up. So let's go east. And we want to move it over. I'm going too fast here. I'm going to change the speed to 4 times. And we want to move it over a little bit. And let's click off another 500. Down here, we're done. Let's click them off. I'll show you what I've done so far. I loaded one in Autostakkert and I processed it. And then I opened up ImPPG, and this was the result. Now, this spot right here and this spot right here, they're smudges. It's just dust and crud that's collected on the optical train, and the only way that you can remedy it is by taking what are called flat frames. That's one way. You can go out and clean the sensor, but having had experience in cleaning sensors, sometimes I make it worse than it was. So it's really, really tough to clean that glass so that it is pristine, pure. So the best thing you can do is to take flats, and I'll show you how you do that now. Let's go over to the sun, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill the frame with the sun first. In order to do that, I'm going to have to move the sun to the right, and we'll click on the south to do that. We're going to speed up things too. Okay, we're going to go to the right, and we better move it down. Whoop, too far. You don't have to do this. It just makes your flat frame work better without vignetting. And then I want to move the sun down just a little bit. So I'll go, or actually move it up a little bit. Okay. Then what I do is I bring up my focuser. I have electronic focuser that I can defocus the, move the focuser way in, say 1,000 steps or out, doesn't matter, one direction. And I've defocused the image. Now all you see are the spots. So I'm going to give this a name, flat, so that I can easily identify and find that. And I'm going to take another 500 frames of this flat frame. Just to be sure, I'm going to take another one. So I'll have a couple flat frames. Now I'm going to bring up my focuser, and I'm going to bring it in 1,000 steps so that we can get back in focus. And this should return the focuser to where it was. It's questionable that we're in focus actually. So, all right, let's move. While we're moving around, let's take a trip. Let me get rid of the focuser. Let's take a trip around the sun and see if there's anything else going on. Let's go down to the, well, we got another, the way you can tell whether it's a smudge or not is that if it moves when the sun moves, then it's part of the sun. But if it just stays in position like this, and like this when the sun moves, then you can rest assured that that's in your glass somewhere. So you can see all of those things are part of the problem. Bird just flew by. Okay, now we want to move the sun down so that we can kind of move up around the rim. And let's move it over some. And continue to move it down to see if there's anything else going on. I'm going to stop here for a minute and see if I can't get a better focus. Let's bring that up. As that telescope heats up, you can almost count on losing focus. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, so let's just start, we're guessing here, and we're going to add, or we're going to bring the focuser out 10 steps. That's not much. And we're going to see, actually it kind of looks the same to me. Let's bring it out another 10 steps. And I don't know, that might be a slight improvement. But the scene conditions create in and out of focus appearance. There's a lot of atmosphere between my telescope and the sun, and a lot of thermal activity, which makes it really, really tough to maintain a continuous sharp focus. Part of that is the reason why when you process, let's say you might take 1,000 frames but only keep 100 or 200 of those frames, is that you're getting rid of the ones that were not as sharp. And software like Autostakkert does that automatically for you. Actually, I do think it looks a little better right here. So let's continue to move around the sun, and let's see what, let's go south a little more. Oh, that one's not working. We got to go south over here. Oop, wrong way. This is where I was imaging before, and I was a little bit captivated by this sunspot, and there's one right below it, and this dark area here that, well, I'm really not sure what's going on here. Not sure what's going on. It looks just as out of focus to me now as it did before. Let me try. I moved it out 20 steps. Let's come back 10 and another 10. Let's go even another 10. Actually, it's starting. I was going the wrong way. I think it looks better. Let's try and maybe a little bit too far. Let's go back and just leave it here for a minute. I want to change this to sun spot, and I want to knock off, let's say, 1,000 frames. So I'm going to come down here and click on 1,000. Image it on 120 frames a second. Already we've taken 600 frames, and it's knocked off 1,000 frames. And this is called sunspot. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up Autostakkert. I'm going to open, first thing I'm going to open is, hang on just a second, is my directory, and I'm going to click on flat, and I'm going to bring up one of these flat frames that I took. And that's the frame I just took. I'm going to, there's no point to analyze this. All I want to do is go to image calibration, and I'm going to create a master frame, and I want to go find a directory where I can easily, I'm going to put it in the same directory that I'm imaging, and we've got flat, and we're just going to call this the master flat and save it. Now we're going to go back and we're going to open up sunspot. That was the name I gave that last image, and we're going to bring that last image up, and this is the this box here is a region of interest, and I can move that box to different places by holding down the control key on a Mac, and also you can take this slider and scrub through the video, and you can just kind of scrub through the 1,000 frames, and what you're looking for is a frame that's pretty sharp. That's about as sharp as any of them. So we're going to analyze it, and what I like to check are surface. You use surface for the moon, and you use surface for the sun. All other solar, like planets, you'll click on the planet. I want to use improved tracking. I really can't imagine, other than the added time in processing, why you would use this. I use expand as opposed to crop. I really don't want them to crop my images, because as the video moves, the whole sun is wobbling a little bit, and one of the options when they stabilize it is to do a crop, which makes it smaller. That's okay, but you can expand it as well, and that's what I choose to use. Everything else is default, and I occasionally will double stack the reference area, and I'm going to do an auto size. So let's analyze it. It takes a few minutes. And while it's doing its job, I'm going to go back over and let's look at the sun and continue scrolling down. Um, Actually, this started working. Let's go. Sometimes it just freezes up. Let's go down. If we're going to move the sun down, then I need east. And we need to move it over. So let's. My cat wants in. Okay, we've made a trip around the sun. Let's do this now. Let's see if there's any prominences that are worth imaging. Prominences are those uh, flares that are solar flares that are shooting off the rim of the sun. And the only way I can see them using my solar equipment is to run the gain up to about 240. And when I do that, uh, you can see down here along the rim that we have some activity. Let's move the sun up some more. And actually, I'm going to bring this down to 200. And I'm going to bring the exposure up to about, I was going to go to 20. Okay. Now, if you do a time lapse, which means you start taking multiple videos, I would put this position, say, right there, and I would continuously recenter this and babysit it through these videos. But if you took around 200, say 1,000 frame videos over a period of a couple hours, and you put those together in a movie file or a GIF file, just a short movie, maybe a 6 or 7 second movie, you would see the activity, the looping effect of these prominences. They're really fascinating. We have one now starting here that I see starting into play. Let's continue to go around the sun and see if there's anything else going on. Oh, can't go that way. Yep, we got some activity over here. The sun does a complete rotation at the equator about every 25 days and change. So when you see a sunspot, it usually takes about 12 or 13 or 14 days for it to move across the surface of the sun. So once one shows up, unless it just goes away, and they sometimes do that, then that spot might be there for at least 2 or 3 weeks. So hopefully, when you see one of those, you'll have a couple of days where the sun is viewable without cloud interference. Okay, let's continue to move the sun down, which is going to be now west. And let's see what's going on up here on the rim. Well, we got some more activity. So that's looking pretty cool too. So there's a lot of solar activity going on all around the sun today, and it probably has been for the last several days. Actually, there's a little prom in the area where I'm doing my sunspot, which has given me an idea. Okay, let's go down again. I think by far the best prominence action is happening down here. Yep. So if I was gonna image any time lapse, which I don't think I'm going to have time to do today, this is where I would be. All right, I'm going to bring the gain back down to 100. Actually, I want to bring it down to 80. When you raise the gain, you increase noise because you over amplify the signal, and, and noise is a little bit difficult to manage. It's so you want to only raise the gain to the as high as you absolutely have to get a good frame rate. And I'm going to bring this down to say 10 milliseconds. So we're kind of back to a histogram that's about 60%. I might want to expose for, let's say, 12 seconds, make it a little brighter. And let's make another trip around the sun and see what's going on. One more time, and then I'm going to start. Oh, let's go back to Autostakkert. It's certainly done its first stage. So this quality graph is telling me that I have roughly, say, 40%, I'm sorry, 20% of my images that are okay and to good, from average to real good. 75% are worthless. And how I know that is that this graph is divided up into 25%, halfway, and 75%. And the images above this line are better than 50%, and the images represented by, let's say we went down here and clicked, that's going to take me to an image here that's not as good. This is going to take me to another image that's not as good. But where this line intersects, about right here, tells me that actually it's better than 25%. About 30% of my images are okay. So I'm going to keep 30% when I stack these. Now, I'm going to go ahead and apply a grid. I'm going to start with 104 points. And I like that. The only thing, no, I like that. It's covered it well. I'm not going to drizzle. I'm not going to apply sharpening at this stage. I'm going to go ahead and click stack. And it's going to do its thing. And while it's doing its thing, I'm going to go back to our sun. And we're going to move around to, let's see. I don't see much else. Okay. Let's move around some more. And here's an area of interest that's clearly not a smudge. Kind of looking at more towards the center. We've covered the rim, and I need to lower my exposure some. I'll just bring the gain down to okay. other than those two real faint sunspots, there's really not nothing remarkable going on today. This is where I've been imaging, because this is about the extent of it, and I'm going to go ahead and reset my reticle. Oh, I don't want that one. I want a single crosshair, and I'm going to move my move the sun up a little bit. And need to move it over some. And down a tad. I'm centering that spot here in the middle as best I can. It's kind of like driving a battleship. Okay, and with that I'm going to start taking 500 frame images. And I'm going to wait a few seconds. I'm going to move the sun over a tad. And down a spick. We're going to take another one. I am fascinated by what's going on here. I'm thinking if I did a time lapse of this area, you might see a lot of swirling going on. I think you would. Let's take another. We're live imaging the sun. This is July 15th, 2021. It's about 20 after 11. And we really don't have a lot going on, but we're imaging because we have clear skies. This is being simulcast to the Celestial Shooters Facebook page and to my YouTube channel, The Night Sky Imager. Let's take another. Just a note that I have an external hard drive. It's a SSD drive, 1 terabyte, that I have velcroed onto the back of my laptops, and that is where I save these files. These are large video files, and I would quickly fill up my main computer hard drive, as I've done that in the past. We're going to need to move a little north to move the, by the way, as you can see, north, south, east, and west mean nothing when you're operating a telescope. And okay, let's knock off another. We're in a good position. I just try to help the software do its stacking by positioning these crosshairs and then moving a area of interest into the center. And the only area of interest that I see really are this one dark spot. So I'll knock off another one, and then we're going to go look at Autostakkert. It should be done by now. And I'll knock off another. Okay, and this is Autostakkert. It has completed, so we can minimize that. Now I'm going to bring up software called ImPPG. I already processed this area with another frame, but let's start from scratch. Let's hit reset on the curve, and let's go to File, Open, and we want to go to Sunspot, and we're going to click on the Autostakkert. Oh, you know what we forgot to do? You didn't, I did. I forgot to apply the flat frame to Autostakkert. So this is the image we just took. Oh, crazy. Oh, we'll go back and redo it. We got time. So I'm going to get rid of that. And while we're kind of in a lull here, taking a series of images of 1 second here. We're going to move a little bit, and then take another. Let's go back to Autostakkert. We're going to load. We're going to load another video. Let's just load this video here. We've got a new video. We've already processed one. You know what? I just loaded the same one. Let's go to this video. And let's put this region of interest up here. Now, before we do anything, I'm going to go to Image Calibration, and I'm going to go down here and click on Load Master Flat. And this is where we are. This is the 15th. I took the flat, and this is our master flat. Before I load it, though, notice that, let me get this out of the way, that these spots are a problem. So when I load this, they should go away. And they did. So with the flat, we can clean our sensor, for the lack of a better word. Now let's analyze this one. And I really don't have to change any settings. It opens up. If you close this and open up, it will essentially have the same settings you last used. Okay, now let's go back to our sun, and wrong laptop. Let's go back to our sun, and let's reset our reticle. It moved. No reticle. Single crosshair. And then let's move our, we need to go north a little bit. Went too far. South and east. South and east. That's fine. Now, south and capture. We're knocking off another 500. And another 500. Let's go north a tad. And another 500. Let's go back to Autostakkert. It ought to be close. It's done. We're going to stay with 104 align points. So now let's place the grid. This image is slightly better. It crosses at probably around 40%. No, still at 30%. It didn't improve that much. So let's go ahead and stack. And we can go back to the sun. My reticle moved. And we need to go north a tad. and west a tad, and north a tad. And let's knock off another 500. That looked pretty sharp right there. The image is going in and out of focus due to seeing. We'll knock off another. I'll knock off another. Let's raise it up just a little bit. Not too far. And let's take another. Again, we have a live image of the sun coming in. July 15th, 2021. We've been around the sun once, actually I think twice. We looked at the prominences, and there are some proms worth imaging. There's not much other activity. There's this very small spot on the sun. Actually, it's large enough to probably fit an Earth or two inside of it, but it's small compared. Let's move over a little. And I knew we were going to go too much. And that's west a tad. And let's take another. We could go south a little bit. But let's go back to Autostakkert and see where we are there. We have finished. So let's minimize Autostakkert. Now let's open up ImPPG, and let's go to open. And here is our second sunspot, and this one has the, well, I'm not sure. I think this one has the flat applied. Yep. So our spots are gone. Yay. Now, the first thing I do, a lot of folks like to use RegiStacks, and it's awesome software. I actually have it loaded and ready to use for its wavelets. But I think I'd rather just use ImPPG to do everything. So with that, I'm going to go to Edit. Currently, it's set up to only apply any effects that I make to this one area. And if you have a computer that has a real slow processor, you want to work on a small area at a time. I actually don't have a fast processor, but I would prefer to see the whole surface. So I go to Edit, Select, and Process All. And this box, usually it goes away. So any edits I make will be not just to inside the box area, but the whole sun surface. So let's, first thing I want to do though is look at my image. I could invert the image and see if there's anything remarkable about the sun when it's inverted. And you can change the curve on the sun when you do invert to add greater contrast. But I think I'll leave it as is and find me a little S curve here for some contrast. Moved it crazily here. Crazily is a word. Crazy. Let's reset it. Having a hard time grabbing. Okay. Then I want to go over to deconvolution, and it uses the Lucy Richardson algorithm. And I'm going to drag this over and run run deconvolution across the face. It only moves a small bit. Already you're going to see some clarity showing up. And then under unsharp mask, I'm going to leave it where it is, but I'm going to raise the amount. And it should bring out, you should be able to see some of the effects of the sharpening. So this can also be done in registacks by the use of wavelets, but it takes moving a lot of wavelet sliders to get it the way you want. And all I'm really interested in is deconvolution and unsharp mask, and those features are here in ImPPG. And it's, in my opinion, it's a faster way to process this. You can also go up here like you can, and you can go in here, go to File, and you can save the image, and you can save your process settings. So everything we've done here you could save. And it's helpful to save your process settings if you're going to do a time lapse. So if you take, say, 200 of these images, you don't want to apply this one at a time. So you can click batch processing, and when you do that, you load all of your files that you took, and you select an output folder, and then you browse and you import your settings, and you select the type of image you want, which for me is 16-bit, and you process all of them at one time. It will let you know, well, when you come back and it's done, then all of your images will have been processed exactly the same way. So the only thing that you have to remember to do is over here when you're imaging is be aware of your histogram, where it is, and as the light changes throughout the time-lapse session, you want to make sure you're adjusting your exposure or your gain, and I would suggest your exposure, not the gain, but you want to adjust it so that it's at the same place, because what screws up a time-lapse is when the exposure varies a little bit, and you can really see that jump in exposure levels. So you want to make sure that that stays essentially in the same location through your time lapse, and it shouldn't move too much, but it moves. And then you can also, in Autostakkert, you can open up all of your files at one time, not just one, analyze the one, and when you click stack, it will do all of your files and apply the flat frame and stack all of your files so they're ready for ImPPG to also be batched with the sharpening and deconvolution. So for me, it's the only way to do a time lapse. You can also then bring those into PixInsight or other software, and you can run another batch where you add color by converting to an RGB file, and then taking your curves and raising your red level and lowering your blue and green level, and you'll get a nice orangish sun looking color. And then you can use your process container to load all of the images, and then you can batch process them at one time and colors added. Then you can go back into your software that's going to create the GIF, which is for me PIP, P-I-P-P. PIP will let you allow you to create a GIF file. Let me see here. I want to get rid of Autostakkert. I will minimize this. I'll minimize that. I don't need this, but this is my Pegasus power supply. PIP's over here somewhere. I may not have it on this computer, but just Google PIPP software. You may have to add astronomy or make a gift GIF file with PIPP, and it should come up. It's free software. Autostakkert is free. ImPPG is free. And so when you Google it, it's capital I, little m, capital PPG. That's free software. And RegiStacks is free. So, man, you just have to thank the people who create the software that allow us to do these things. And I'm thankful for them. Okay, let's rest that, and let's go back and let's look at our sun. It's shifted again. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to sign off for now. I'm going to continue to take live time-lapse videos just to see if there's anything going on here and here. So I'm going to move the sun over and click off one real quick. Too far. Let's go down. Let's go over. Now we got to go up. Again, it's like steering a battleship. Let's go over. Let's go over. A little more. It's going to jump a bunch in a second here because I'm dealing with backlash. I'm just clicking it ever so lightly. All right, let's go ahead. That's close enough and capture another frame. And with that, I'm going to say have a great rest of the day, folks. And thanks for watching. Consider subscribing and clicking on like. If you do that, then I'll know that you're interested in seeing more of these, and I'll do more of these. So thank you again for watching. Have a great day.